Okay, so sorry I didn't stream Wednesday. I'm live now. Here I am. Hit the bell icon to know when I go live. That's how that works. I got some news. I got some news to show you all very shortly. Let me see if people are gonna actually come in here. Ah, there's someone. Hello, welcome to my stream. Doing stuff and things, and yeah. All right, I'm going to as it turns out, that's the thing that happens. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna read these things because there's people here now. Actually, I'll read some other smaller news stuff first. Uh-oh. What's up, Jenna? Hey, happy birthday, Jenna. What's up, Kuma? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jenna. Happy birthday to you. Oh god, more China saber rattling. Okay, all right. I think I got all my news stuff together. I'm gonna read this stuff because this is nuts. Hang on. All right, you guys ready? Some algae, some climate change news.
I've worked in different capacities, but I've never seen a death like this.
Mariposa County Sheriff Jeremy Breeze says his department won't rest until investigators determine how John Jerish, Ellen Chung, their 1-year-old daughter Muji, and their dog all died while on a hike on Monday. A
Whoa.
spokesperson for the sheriff's office says the family was reported missing around 11 p.m. Monday night and discovered
Nice,
around
Jenna.
11 a.m. Tuesday morning. Sheriff Breeze says there are some abandoned mine shafts in the area which can release dangerous gases, but that has not yet been ruled a determining factor.
We have not located a mine nearby, but in the beginning of the investigation, when we put out our release, that's why we are taking it slower and methodically for the safety of the rescuers.
The sheriff also says the trail the family was on had warnings about toxic algal blooms in the Merced River, but it's still too early in the investigation to determine if that impacted the family.
At the beginning,
What's
there
up,
are
Yara
some
Meshi?
signage about some algae blooms, but that's from the Forest Service, and I can't speak to, the potential dangers there.
The family's death is sending a shockwave through the community. We were told by a friend.
Dang. They all died. Apparently, the education department's going to cancel student loan debt for more than 320,000 borrowers. The U.S. Department of Education announced Thursday that it will cancel $5.8 billion in student debt for more than 320,000 borrowers. The debt forgiveness, which will go to borrowers with a total and permanent disability, will be automatically granted using data already available to the Social Security Administration. Borrowers will begin to see the relief in September. The U.S. Department of Education announced Thursday it will cancel $5.8 billion in student debt for more than 320,000 borrowers. The debt forgiveness, which will go to borrowers with a total and permanent disability, will be automatically granted using data already available to the Social Security Administration. People should start seeing the relief in September. The Education Department said it also plans to stop asking these borrowers to continue sharing earnings data after they receive the relief. We've heard loud and clear from borrowers with disabilities and advocates about the need for this change, and we are excited to follow through on it, said U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona in a statement. This change reduces red tape with the aim of making processes as simple as possible for borrowers who need support. Yeah, who cares about the oh wait, never mind, I'm silly. It's borrowers, yeah. The Education Department under the I confused the word borrowers with lenders. That's how I got confused there, because I'm silly. I'm a very silly person. The Education Department under the Biden administration has also canceled student debt for thousands of students who attended for-profit schools. Interesting. Still, President Joe Biden remains under pressure from Democrats, advocates, and borrowers to go further and cancel $50,000 per borrower in student debt for all. Biden has asked the Education Department and the U.S. Department of Justice to review his legal authority to forgive student debt through executive action. The findings of those reports are not yet public. You don't need Congress, Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, has said. All you need is the flick of a pen. Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, I feel that, Bird. I had student loans from ITT Tech, but yeah, that school got collapsed, so I'll never pay that shit. All right, so I got a video for us to watch. I'm gonna do that last, but I will probably read this up first because this is pretty wild, and it's wild because the Q people always have nothing to say about this kind of stuff. But apparently, a Minnesota GOP head resigns after sex trafficking claims against top donor. The embattled leader of the Minnesota Republican Party has been forced to resign following accusations that she ran a morally bankrupt operation that was rife with verbal abuse, intimidation, and sexual misconduct. Jennifer Carnahan initially resisted calls to resign, saying she had no knowledge of sex trafficking allegations against a prominent donor and a local college Republican chapter leader. She said, "A mob mentality came out in this way to defame, tarnish, and attempt to ruin my personal and professional reputation." Late Thursday, the party's 15-member board voted 8-7 to give Carnahan 3 months' salary, about $38,000. Carnahan cast a deciding vote on her severance. The board also approved investigations into the party's finances and human resources protocols. It has been the honor of a lifetime to serve as chairwoman for the Republican Party of Minnesota, Carnahan said in a statement after the vote. However, I signed up for this party to help us elect Republicans, and I want to ensure that we can continue to do that. Calls for Carnahan to step down intensified after a close friend, GOP donor Anton Tony Lazaro, was arrested on federal sex trafficking charges. Wow. Carnahan insisted she knew nothing about the allegations against him before his indictment was unsealed last week. Carnahan was also accused of creating a toxic workplace environment in which personal and professional lines were blurred, concerns about sexual harassment ignored, and employees who didn't fall in line were subjected to retaliation. Wild. Earlier this week, the four most recent executive directors of the Republican Party of Minnesota released a statement strongly condemning her leadership. 10 years ago, Chair Tony Sutton resigned because under his leadership, the Republican Party of Minnesota was financially bankrupt. Today, the party is morally bankrupt due to the leadership of Chair Jennifer Carnahan, the statement read. Yikes. Thanks for the like, Nicole. Oh my goodness, paywalls. All right. Let's check out this this nutter that was trying to blow up the Capitol. Let's see what he was up to. If this will load. I think it'll load soon.
It started around or about 9 o'clock Thursday morning. 49-year-old Floyd Ray Roseberry entered Washington, D.C. in a black pickup truck looking to cause trouble.
I'm parked up here.
Probably going to play Naraka tonight, Xavier.
He settled on a spot in front of the Library of Congress, directly across from the U.S. Capitol, and claimed to anyone that would listen that his truck had a bomb.
Oh, wow.
Call the police and tell them to come out here and clear the Capitol.
Is that money? He's just throwing money?
He quickly got the attention of Capitol Police. They began to clear the area. At 9:43, they tweeted this urgent warning. USCP responding to a suspicious vehicle near the Library of Congress. Please stay away from this area. Wow. Then at 9:54, less than an hour after Roseberry arrived, they sent this message to staffers on the Hill, telling them, among other things, if you are in a public space, find a place to hide or seek cover. That began a long and tense standoff between Roseberry and police, one that would include an evacuation and lockdown of buildings across a 3-block radius, as police attempted to wait Roseberry out.
All right, guys.
Whoa, they had the snipers on deck.
Looks to me like I'm getting ready to make a phone call.
He live-streamed his grievances on Facebook, promising a revolution and calling out President Joe Biden.
I'm just warning you, Biden, don't pull the trigger on this truck, because I'm not responsible for it.
He demanded Biden resign and complained about the administration's immigration policy and its response in Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah, Xavier.
It's my land.
This dude's still alive.
It's your land. We're the people. Taking a stand, Joe. Got all them people dying in Afghanistan, all them kids being raped. Just let Taliban run right through.
He also showed the inside of his truck, filled with loose change he claimed would turn into shrapnel, and held in front of him a canister he claimed was filled with a chemical explosive. He warned if police attempted to shoot him to end the standoff, his truck would explode. A later assessment of the truck's contents revealed there was no bomb, but what police described as bomb-making materials. Throughout the ordeal, Capitol Police used inventive ways to attempt to quell the situation.
We tried to negotiate with Mr. Rosenberry. We first started doing that with a whiteboard, just writing messages back and forth. We used a robot to get a telephone down to him, but he would not use the telephone.
Eventually, 5 hours after it began, Roseberry gave up.
He gave up and did not resist, and our folks were able to take him into custody without incident.
His precise motives remain unclear, but based on his social media monologues, politics were a big driver of his angst. His son Christopher told CNN that his father took a much greater interest in politics after Donald Trump was elected. Biden's victory made him very upset. Since Biden got elected, he's just been like, man, he doesn't like change, I reckon, Christopher Roseberry said, adding his father told him, quote, I'm sticking up for my country. We need to get the country back to the way it was.
Wild. Yikes. So that was pretty nuts. That was a thing that happened. I want to watch this. We're going to watch this together. And it's pretty wild. It seems nuts. It's something I've known about. I've talked about on stream before a bunch of times. You see I'm wearing the anti-cop shirt today. We're going to talk about how there's gangs in police departments. You may have heard me talk about the Gun Trace Task Force here in the Baltimore Police Department. But this is going to be a wild ride that I have yet to watch, but we're going to watch it together for the first time. So without further ado, this is a thing from the Gravel Institute called the Murderous Police Gangs of Los Angeles. I didn't watch this whole 30-minute rant yet.
Since the 1970s, there have been at least 18 gangs within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and they continue to brutalize and even murder community members today. My name is Cerise Castle, and I am a journalist. In the summer of 2020, I was working for a local radio station here in Los Angeles, and I
haven't watched it yet. I'll go.
covering
This seems
the
wild.
George Floyd rallies that were happening across the country, across the world. And I was shooting photos of people protesting, and while I was doing that, 2 cars with police officers on them in riot gear rolled into the area where people had gathered, and they shot people with less lethal munitions. And although I identified myself as press, I was shot, and the resulting injuries landed me in the hospital. A few days after that happened, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department killed a teenager who was working at his job in the Compton area. Very quickly after this young man was killed, his name is Andres Guardado, was reported that his killing may have been part of a gang initiation.
And there are some new allegations against the deputy involved in Guardado's case who did not fire his weapon. Civil rights attorneys accuse Christopher Hernandez of being part of what some call a Sheriff's Department clique or gang.
While I was bedridden, I started researching the history of the gangs in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and I found out that this dates back at least 50 years. I spent 6 months researching deputy gangs within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Conservatively, I estimate I read about 100,000 pages of legal filings. And what I came away with was a 15-part series detailing 18 gangs that I was able to confirm the existence of within the department.
I'll follow you. I'll go.
There are the Little Devils, Posse, the Wayside Whities, the 2000 Boys, the 3000 Boys, the Jump Out Boys, the Banditos, the Executioners, the Spartans, the Cowboys, the Rattlesnakes, and the Tasmanian Devils. They have killed 19 people, all of whom were men of color, several of whom were in a mental health crisis when they were killed. Government from the county level, the state level, and the federal level has known about this issue since the early 1990s, and no significant action, policy change has been brought forth.
So let's do a quick run through of the gangs of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. All of them have stuff in common. You usually have official gang tattoos, a hand signal, and a way to join, usually by shooting or killing a civilian or doing something like falsifying paperwork. These are just a few of the gangs operating within the LA Sheriff's Department. The Wayside Whities. The Wayside Whities was a gang of white deputies at the Pitchess Detention Center in northern LA County in the 1980s and 1990s. Their sign was having their middle fingers crossed to create a W for white. The Linwood Vikings. The Vikings were a gang based out of the Linwood Station. Their tattoo was of a Viking, and their hand sign was an L made with the thumb and index finger for Linwood. And they were one of the most powerful and most violent gangs. A lot of their members became leaders in the department. The 3000 Boys. The 3000 Boys were based out of the Men's Central Jail in downtown LA. The 3000 Boys are particularly violent because that's where the department would transfer deputies convicted of crimes to keep them away from the public. The Jump Out Boys. The Jump Out Boys operated across the county in the Operation Safe Streets unit. Their tattoo was of a skeleton with glowing red eyes, holding a revolver in the dead man's hand, a popular poker holding among law enforcement officers. They kept their manifesto in a notebook. The Regulators. Out of the Century Station you have the Regulators, who allegedly have many members working in department leadership. The Executioners. At the Compton Station you have the Executioners. Their tattoo is of a skeleton with a Nazi helmet holding an assault rifle. Black people and women are not allowed to join the gang. The Banditos. The Banditos operate mainly out of the East LA station, and their tattoo is of a skeleton wearing a sombrero with a smoking revolver and a sheriff's badge. They have a culture of working backwards, arresting or shooting civilians and coming up with probable cause later by planting and manufacturing evidence. There are others, like the rattlesnakes, the pirates, and the buffalo soldiers that we know a lot less about.
Dang.
Anyway, I'm here today at a rally, 2-year anniversary of the killing of Paul Rea, 18-year-old young man at a traffic stop by Hector Saavedra, who's East LA Sheriff.
Thanks for the share, Xavier.
Who was a prospect for the deputy sheriff gang, Los Banditos. Now, how do I know that? Because 2 deputies who work here were interviewed on national TV.
LA Sheriff Deputy Hector Saavedra Soto. Is he a prospect for the Banditos?
Yes, he is.
He's a prospect.
Paul Rea is my son. He was murdered on June 27th, 2019. It was supposed to be a traffic stop. They pulled him out of their cars with guns. When they were questioning why they're getting pulled over, they were scared because they didn't know why they were getting pulled over. And they're getting pulled over with guns, to their heads, and being told that if they move, they're gonna shoot their fucking heads off. They pulled the driver out of the car, and when they pulled my son out, they're gonna handcuff my son, and I know my son was feared for his life. He just from childhood, growing up, seen me harassed before. He ran. He didn't even get 4 feet away when Hector Saavedra shot him multiple times in the back.
Paul's father was actually killed by sheriff's deputies, so he grew up his whole life being afraid of this deputy gang. So when they asked him to get out of the car, naturally he was afraid. So he attempted to exit that interaction, which is perfectly within his right since he was not the driver. Unfortunately, Saavedra pursued Paul and shot him in the back multiple times.
Wow.
Right here, and Paul died.
The 2 deputies that killed Anthony Vargas were also prospects for the East LA Sheriff's gang.
Anthony Vargas was shot by Sheriff Deputy Nicholas Perez and Sheriff Deputy Jonathan Rojas. Are they also part of the Banditos gang or prospects for the Banditos?
Prospects? Yes.
They're prospects.
How do you know they were prospects?
Just personal conversations with them, and them saying that was one of their main goals, to be a part of this gang.
August 12th of 2018, my nephew, he had attended a barbecue. He was just following what he always did. Whenever there was a barbecue, he showed up, took his rub. He thought it was the best rub, so hey, get it out there, right? He took it, and that was the last time. That was the last day that we seen him, was August 11th. There was a robbery call that had went into the East LA Sheriff's Department, where an individual had said that they had their $12 watch stolen. They gave a description of an individual, 30 to 40 years old, over 6 feet tall. It fit nothing of Anthony's description, wearing a completely different color shirt than my nephew had on. 2 deputies from the East LA Sheriff's Department were, servicing the area at the time, and they saw my nephew walking down one of the fire paths on his way home, and they, targeted him. My nephew was punched in his head multiple times, punched in his ribs by these deputies, before falling to his knees, where he was shot at 16 times.
It was just like bam, 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 like continuous shots.
One man shot and killed by Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies. Investigators say the young man did have a gun on him, but they're not sure if he was a part of the robbery.
Anthony was not known to carry a gun on him. He slept in a room with my mom, which is his grandma. He slept directly across from my 7-year-old niece she was 7 years old at the time. Anthony was not known to carry a gun. He was not known to carry weapons.
You've never seen him with a gun?
No, never.
If you get in a shooting, that's a definite brownie point.
And according to these deputies, to justify those shootings, they plant weapons on the people they stop.
There's been multiple occasions where they say, hey, we got a guy that has a gun and he's running from us. In reality, that person never had a gun. And they would say, oh, it was a phantom gun. It was something that really wasn't there.
So you have personally witnessed that?
Yes.
And we started reading the DA report and matching them with, other things that we found on our own, which includes the autopsy report. We found out through forensics that the gun that they're saying my nephew had on him had absolutely no DNA on it. None of my nephew's DNA. And I find it strange because these deputies are saying that my nephew had the gun in his hand and he was like an imminent threat to them. But if he was holding a gun in his hand, there would have been fingerprints on the gun.
Immediately after I released the first part of the series, I began receiving death threats. I regularly receive threatening messages on my social media. I receive phone calls from people threatening my life. My loved ones have received these messages as well. The sheriff of Los Angeles County has instructed anyone that I reported on to personally sue me. And when I attempted to attend a press conference featuring the sheriff's department, I was detained.
Why?
I think the sheriff's department has decided to target me since I released this series.
We started just finding shit, and everything we would find out about Anthony or about the sheriff's department, we would come out and talk, and the more we would come out and talk, the cops would pass by the house and they would park on the corner of our street, which they still do to this time. They would park in the corner of our house and they would sit in their car and they would eat their lunch. And there's a corner store from where our family residence is, so the kids will walk to the store, and they can't even walk to the store because they see the sheriff's department right there, and because they know what they did to Anthony, and these are kids under the age of 15.
Wild. That's so wild.
Deputy Art Gonzalez is a documented hero, a former Marine who became a deputy, rewarded by the LA County Sheriff's Department with the Medal of Valor in 2018 for saving the life of a 4-year-old boy.
The time is 10:59 and we are on the record.
Okay.
Now he's sounding the alarm of a group of 15 officers inside the Compton station with matching tattoos, allegedly known as the Executioners.
I now call them a gang because that's what gangs do. They beat up other people.
Deputy Gonzalez, he's afraid for his safety right now.
He also reports that graffiti appeared at the station entrance.
Art is a rat, and that was placed at the keypad to get into the parking lot. So that's the most visible place in the entire station.
His lawyer says he's now on leave from the department and in fear for his life.
In addition to having to hire security guards to go with me when I do my job, I've had to start wearing a bulletproof vest. Many of these death threats are credible, and I've been told by people inside the department that I should be careful.
Wow.
So I invested in this. This is a bulletproof vest. This guy comes with me very often.
Why do you keep doing it?
I continue to report on this story because no one else really is.
Yeah, it's just the bad apples, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's very good cops out there.
The closure, I suppose, that I'm able to bring to families. Oftentimes they had suspected for years that their loved one had been killed by a deputy gang member. And I can come along and confirm that. And I've also seen my reporting make a very real difference in some of the ongoing cases. Just recently, the Democratic Party of Los Angeles County passed a resolution asking for the sheriff to resign.
And now that, you know, everything's came out, like there's a complete, you know, turn, and like I can't tell you how it feels to like see the tide turn. You know, like it's fucking groundbreaking, and it's like it shows you the progress that's being made. You know, it just makes you want to keep pushing more and more, because when we were fighting back then, like that push now has come, it's come even further, and it's just like it encourages you.
The Sheriff Alex Villanueva, the lead gang member of LA County, he's a bandito himself.
This is 10-3,000 boys. Deputy Mark Romero is one of them, and now today I believe he's a homicide sheriff, but he's a 3,000 boy underneath.
We're out here spreading the word. Everyone's saying it. Google LASD gangs. Everyone should be tagging their neighborhood with Google LASD gangs.
Google LASD gangs. Fuck the banditos. Fuck Sheriff Villanueva. Fuck LASD as an organization.
By the way, when you're done Googling 40% cops, Google Los Angeles Sheriff Department gangs. Okay, LASD gangs.
We know about your gangs. We're telling our people to Google LASD gangs, and we're coming for your asses.
And then there's another woman, Cerise, who has been putting together a series about the gangs in the Sheriff's Department. So I'm going to take a look at all of this as these investigations are going on.
We have video proof. We have pictures. We've taken them to the Sheriff's Department. We've called the CLC meetings. We've done what we had to do, and nothing's gotten done.
It's unacceptable. We will send a clear message to the LA County Sheriff's Department that you clean your house. You get your house in order, or we will surely help you do that. You have executioners, you have gangs in your own house.
Keep going out there and just keep fighting and keep exposing them for what they are and what they're doing, because it's, you know, their reign of terror isn't going to stop unless we put a stop to it. So we're not going away anytime soon, you know, like we're here to stay.
Google LASD gang. Let's Google LASD gangs. We'll look at the credits. Alright, let's see what's up. When we Google LASD gangs. LASD gangs database. Okay. The Little Devils. Case numbers. I guess this has compiled all the cases against these guys. That's crazy. That dude is active. Wild. That's kind of a little scary.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning. An explosive CBS News investigation looks into alleged gangs of deputies inside the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Our investigation found these deputies are allegedly encouraged to shoot people as part of their initiation. The California Attorney General launched a civil rights investigation into these claims last month. Maria Elena Salinas spoke exclusively with several deputies who claims these gangs have existed for decades. Maria Elena, good morning to you. This is very, very troubling stuff. Good morning, Gail. Yes, it is. You know, usually when we think of gangs, we think of street gangs like MS-13 or the Crips or the Bloods. CBS News spoke exclusively with current deputies out of the East Los Angeles station who claim that the LA Sheriff's Department has a huge problem.
It's an open secret that deputy gangs have existed within the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for decades.
they operate as a gang. They commit crimes, they assault people.
Currently, the most prevalent are the bandidos, comprised of mostly Latino deputies who serve predominantly African-American and Latino neighborhoods. These deputies do not want to be identified for fear of reprisal. CBS News has agreed to blur their faces and substitute their voices.
Have any of them actually been fired? I'm not sure. Probably not.
Become banditos in East LA have been promoted and they've spread all over the county.
How do they identify themselves?
With a tattoo.
Is there an initiation process to join the gang?
You could say that. They could go from you getting a shooting or, you know, they do anything for these guys.
You said they get shootings. What do you mean by that?
If you get in a shooting, that's a definite brownie point.
And according to these deputies, to justify those shootings, they plant weapons on suspects.
There's been multiple occasions where they say, hey, we got a guy that has a gun and he's running from us. In reality, that person never had a gun. And they would say, oh, it was a phantom gun. It was something that really wasn't there.
So you have personally witnessed that?
Yes.
A lot of these officers are Latinos, so why are they targeting other Latinos? Is it racial profiling? Self-loathing?
They do racial profile. It's like Latino gangs. They target other young Latinos.
Which is what Lisa Vargas has contended all along. Her 21-year-old son, Anthony Vargas, who aspired to be a chef, was shot 13 times by sheriff's deputies while on his way home.
Wow. You know, we have videos with his voice and his giggle, and we have to play that. You know, because we don't have his voice no more. We don't have his smile.
Lisa Vargas filed a lawsuit against the County of Los Angeles and the deputies who shot her son. The suit alleges that individuals who shot Anthony were members of the Bandidos gang or prospects, and that membership in the Bandidos gang included using excessive force and shooting those who are unarmed.
They have initiations, and in order for them to become a prospect, their thing is they have to kill somebody.
Anthony Vargas was shot by Sheriff Deputy Nicholas Perez and Sheriff Deputy Jonathan Rojas. Are they also part of the Bandidos gang or prospects for the Bandidos?
Prospects? Yes.
They're prospects.
How do you know they were prospects?
You know, just personal conversations with them, and them saying that was one of their main goals, to be a part of this gang.
If you refuse to comply with their demands to join the gang, what happens?
They stop giving you backup, which is very dangerous. They ignore you.
I've seen no evidence of 3 or more deputies engaging in a criminal activity with a unifying symbol whose primary purpose is to commit crime.
LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva has publicly denied the existence of gangs within his department. On a video posted to the LASD website, he warns the department's employees against joining such groups.
Any employee who aligns with a clique or subgroup which engages in any form of misconduct will be held accountable. I do not want you joining these alleged cliques anymore, period.
The Banditos believe they can get away with anything, and you know they're not going to have any type of consequences for their actions.
No one is above the law.
Newly elected LA County District Attorney George Gascon says he is committed to upholding the law.
We take this allegation seriously, and if in fact we believe that there is a criminal activity within the sheriff's department, and then we'll deal accordingly.
We need to remember it's not just the mothers.
Lisa, what does justice look like for you and for your entire family?
Justice for me is a whole long list. Because not only is it these officers being held accountable for homicide, for a murder, it's everybody else involved. I want the whole system cleaned out.
A federal grand jury investigation has been convened. Sheriff Villanueva declined to comment. An investigation by the former district attorney's office claims that the deputies, and I quote here, acted in lawful self-defense and defense of others when they used deadly force against Anthony Vargas. Deputies Rojas and Perez deny being members of the prospects or Bandidos. Anthony.
Maria Elena, why did sheriff's deputies allegedly target Anthony Vargas?
Well, Anthony Vargas was coming home from a prayer group and a party in his housing project when he was approached by the deputies. Now, there was a robbery nearby. However, the victim of the robbery had described the suspects as 3 male Hispanics between 35 and 40 years old. Anthony Vargas was only 21 years old, and the victim later, when he was shown an array of photos, did not identify Anthony Vargas. Also, there was no DNA or fingerprints on the weapon that the deputies allege that Anthony Vargas had on him. And his case is only one, or his murder is only one of several young Latinos who have died in the hands of alleged deputy gang members.
Such a disturbing report, Maria Elena. Thank you so much.
No, Anthony, it's so troubling. You have deputies in the department saying this exists.
Yeah.
You have the sheriff saying, no, it doesn't exist. Sounds to me like they need an outside investigation or something. You have Mrs. Vargas talking about the loss of her son, who doesn't appear to have been in a gang. It's very, very troubling.
Very troubling.
Wild. Let's see what else they got. Congresswoman Maxine Waters has sent a letter to the U.S. Attorney General demanding that the United States Department of Justice investigate the reported existence of a rogue, violent gang of law enforcement officers who call themselves the Executioners, allegedly operating within the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Wow, she actually really wrote a letter. Wow. Well, that's nuts. That's all I got for tonight for the news. If you couldn't tell, I'm very tired. Thanks for hanging out with me. They're not going to do shit about it because cops protect cops? Yeah, that's true. But even cops hate cops. You know, Chris Dorner. Chris Dorner. Shout out to Chris Dorner. Rest in peace, Chris Dorner. It's good to see you too, Algal. I will follow you on your new TikTok. Happy birthday, Jenna. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for coming, DC Metal Chris. Thanks, Urameshi. Thanks, Fade Runner. I might play some Naraka. I haven't decided. I'm literally like passing out sitting up at this chair. But if I play Naraka, you'll see me on in a few minutes. But thanks, everyone. I'll see you guys Monday. I'm going to try and do another Mortal Kombat tournament on Monday. Seems like it'll be a good thing. Let me decide on who to ride. Amaranth. No, I'm not going to raid Amaranth. Thanks, Twan. Who's on?
Goal for today since the stream.
MF Slayer. So on. Ooh, Calamity's playing Naraka. Chubby Waifu. Let's raid Chubby Waifu. How about that? Let's raid Chubby Waifu. Alright, y'all. Thanks for checking me out. I'll see you in a few minutes, and if not, I'll catch you on the flip. My birthday is also Wednesday, so I'll